There we go. This meeting is being recorded. Okay, that's all good. Share that. All right.
Okay, do you mind if I do that quick little brief intro again?
Absolutely. Go right
I,
ahead.
I think we're good. Okay, all right. So, um, yeah, I just wanted to quickly give a quick little brief intro about the portals. So the portals are your entry, basically, kind of your lifetime access to these interactive minting experiences that we're going to create in the future. And what these are and the possibilities are is really exciting. You know, we're going to take them to different types of experiences, some big, some small, some more intimate, some more epic, like the one that we just created for the first one. And each one of these portals gives you a lifetime reserve. Basically, you're allowed to reserve a mint for each one, and also gives you access to it. So even if you choose not to, pay and mint a piece, you can still go into these experiences and enjoy them because you've got a portal. And I'm really excited by these portals. I think, they're one of my favorite tokens ever for sure. They're so complex, they're fun, they really match with kind of the here and now mood. And yeah, thanks so much, Liam. I think you've done an unbelievable job. And yeah, keen to talk about the params.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, that was a nice glowing intro. Thanks. Yeah. So I think coming into this, these portals kind of grew out of what we did with the coins, right? And
Mm,
I think in transitioning from one to the other, what I really wanted to do was provide something that felt really big and epic, like the experience that you just put together with the passage. And you know, thinking through this and how it works, I've tried to provide kind of as much control to the user as possible, so that people can get this looking as close to perfect, hopefully, as they want to. But in kind of doing that, I've there's a lot of parameters involved here, and so I've also tried to provide some a little bit of extra functionality to allow people to just roll until they find something that they like. And
mm,
so I think what I want to do today is just kind of step through the parameters, talk about what each one does, and probably start off by talking about how people could just control this and hit the random button and get something that looks cool without, having to spend a long time trying to really understand how everything works.
yeah.
So I'll just jump into that straight away here.
One thing I will say quickly that
Mhm.
I find about these programs when I play with them, the first time you look at it, you're like, holy crap, there's a lot. But actually, the good thing about them is that they all really do sort of intuitive things. They're not like, between three options, they're not all really similar. You really see each param that you control, you actually see quite a large difference when you're controlling it. Unlike, some other tokens I've played with where you just see subtle differences. And that's, for me, that's when it gets really hard with params, when you don't even really see those differences. But these are so obvious right off the bat. And I think, yeah, I guess my message is that to me, like once you start playing with it, the intimidation levels go way down.
Yeah, awesome. That's really actually encouraging to hear. So, yeah, I mean, there are a lot of params, obviously, but again, I think hopefully it's intuitive enough for those people who like really want to get down into the weeds and make something sort of that is exclusively theirs, and providing these controls for people who just want to like get through this as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
So I think the first thing I'll say right off the bat is I've made this so that um, what you see here is exactly what you get. There are a lot of params tokens out there that still use the inbuilt FX the FX hash pseudo random number generator. And what I've provided here is this first parameter called seed, which allows you to sort of just set it up so that you can provide it a seed, so that when you hit this mint button at the end, what you've seen in this main window here is exactly what you're getting. And we can see that by sort of refreshing the example seed up here, which changes nothing in the end, which is a good thing for that purpose. So the first thing to probably talk about is there are three checkboxes in the params, and what they all have to do with is entrusting a set of other parameters to the random number generator. So we've got three general sort of concepts for params in this. One is like geometry, which is these four fields here, so geometry size 1, 2, and 3, and geometry type. We've got our color parameters, so all of these different colors here, and we've got the fractal parameters. So if all I wanted to do was trust the random number generator, I could click all of these on, so these checkbox fields. If I click all of those on, and then just start changing the random seed, you'll see that it outputs something very different each time, but something within the realms of how the token was kind of originally designed. So it's sort of controlling it a little bit more finely. So by checking those three boxes and just changing the random seed, you should pretty quickly be able to find something that you like. For those people who sort of want a lot more control, though, what I would suggest is turning all of these off and playing around with it. So I've tried to set this up so that each of the parameter sets is in the order that you should sort of step through them, that you might want to step through them from, making big sort of bold changes. So the first one is sort of the geometry type. Um, so from here, you can pick a geometry type. So what this is doing is it's changing the pieces of geometry that it's drawing in this space. Um, so right off the bat, you can see this is just drawing pipes. So it's all it's drawing is those big pipes around the place. So what I can show you maybe is let's go box and pipes. So this is going to draw pipes and boxes, as you can see here. And then up here, we've got these three sliders, which refer to the geometry size. And these are a little bit arbitrary in that they relate to different things depending on the type you've picked. But the best way around that is just to pick the geometry type that you're after and just play around with the sliders a bit to see what sort of effect they have on things. So you can see here, like this second size is changing the size of those boxes in a pretty significant way. And I can use this third slider to change the size of the pipes. So you can see that they become much, much bigger there. Um, so the second set of parameters that you can play around with is the colors themselves. So again, if you were to select entrust the color, it would just pick a random set of colors based on some gates. But if you really wanted to play around with all the colors, you can just go in here and sort of change them. So the first one is the environment color. So that's the color of this sort of background and fog element. So we can sort of change that to maybe like a light blue color there. And I'm just going to reduce this again here to make it a little bit smaller. Uh, that. Yeah, that's good.
And also, Liam, those lock icons,
Yep.
if you're happy with one of them, then you just click that and then it makes sure it doesn't change it, right? Like that's just basically locking it in if you're
Yeah,
happy
that's
to
it.
let it. Yeah, cool.
That's it. So these are kind of useful. So let's say I've gone through all the geometry and I like all of those. I want to lock sort of those five things. And that just means that, if I get to a point where I like all of this kind of stuff, so I like all the colors, I like all of the um, geometry I've put together, I can then go up here and hit random, and it will only randomize then the bits that I haven't logged.
Yeah, it's great.
So yeah, that's a good point for sure. So yeah, object color. So I can make the object a different color. I can make it maybe let's make it a bit of a gold color here.
Oh, I love the gold ones.
Yeah, me
Gold
too.
ones are crazy.
And then, so the light color. So this is the color of the light source. So there's a light in this scene. And this is also related to this one down here. So the light distance, attenuation, and intensity. So I can the light intensity is obviously how bright the light is, so I can like reduce that if I want it to be a little bit more subtle. The light attenuation is how long it takes for the light to fade over a distance. So if I want it to be, like really lighten up the scene, I can set that to a really high value. But if I just want it to be sort of very localized, I can set it to a much lower value. And then the light distance is the distance that the light is from the camera. So if we wanted to ramp up that here, and move the light much further away. I can move this all the way up here, and you can see that that's then lighting things up sort of far in the distance up there. So yeah, and then light color. So let's bring the light back a little bit here. So we can set the light color to maybe, let's make it a like bright green color here. So you can see sort of what that's doing to the scene. Um, so for now, I think I'm going to move the light pretty far away and maybe keep it like a bit of a bright yellow color, just to really sort of highlight that golden sheen. So then we've got the Fresnel color. So Fresnel or Fresnel is sort of more commonly known, I guess, as rim lighting in 3D software. So the best way to sort of visualize this is to just ramp up the intensity down here, so the Fresnel intensity. Maybe change the color a bit. So let's change it to like a nice bright yellow color. And you can sort of see what's happening with this is it's measuring the angle of the rays against the angle the normal of the geometry and sort of creating a lighting situation that tries to sort of really light up around the limb, so the rim rather. So we can see like if we were to change that to a blue, you can see much more of sort of what that's doing there. It's more sort of apparent in along curved surfaces. So you can see maybe if we would go sphere and frame, for example, or box and frame. Sorry, and sphere and pipes rather. If we get a sphere in there. Yeah, so you can see it on those curved examples a bit better. Uh, so then we've got the gamma color. So gamma is normally used for like brightness and color correction, and it's doing a similar sort of thing here. So normally your gamma should be somewhere around in the mid-range, like grayish kind of area. You can use this to affect some pretty big changes to the way that your scene looks. For example, if I was to sort of take this right into the red, you see how much of a dramatic change that has. Because what it's doing is it's taking the color of everything else after it's rendered and pushing it into that sort of red frame. Uh, what are we doing here? Box and pipes. Yeah, let's go with that. Reduce that a lot. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, what you can do as well with this is if you wanted this to look much more golden, you could sort of take it into this like orange area. I'm gonna move this back to yellow. So all of a sudden you've got this sort of, you know, hot, uh, reddish gold colored geometry here. So then sort of the final set of parameters to talk about is the fractal geometry. So this affects how the scene fractals work. And the sort of fractal this is, if anyone's interested in, is called a KIFS fractal, so KFS. And what the way this works is that it takes the space that you're drawing into and it folds it into itself a number of times. So in this case, it's folding it twice. So it'll fold it, move things around a bit, fold it again, move things around a bit more. And then within that sort of very modified space, it draws our geometry. So one of the really interesting things about this is this scene is only drawing a single pipe and a single box, but because of the way we folded the geometry up, or folded the space up rather, it seems to be drawing them a lot more. Um, so these names are gonna feel a little bit mysterious, but after playing around with them a little bit, you'll get something of an intuitive idea of how they work. So what you can do here is you can change. There are two fold angles. So one is the first pass of the fold, the other is the second pass of the fold, and then you've got these offsets, which offset in an X, Y, and Z direction within those folds. So the best way to sort of visualize these are the fold angles go from minus pi to positive pi. And what that does is it creates a very square kind of fractal if you were to go to the extreme edges of that. And that's because it's rotating it by a whole pi, and you can see that if we were to take one of those back to zero as well, is very similarly square. Whereas if you were to move that even slightly off pi, all of a sudden you can see how it's starting to move a little bit more around that those angles. So by playing just with the folds, you can get some really interesting sort of fractal patterns happening, just because of the way those folds work and what they're actually doing to the space that they're operating on. So I'll just do this until I get something I kind of like here. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. And then the offsets are how the space is offset within those folds. So the offsets, as I said, in the X, Y, and Z direction, but X, Y, and Z become sort of meaningless in this context because we're sort of folding the space, right? And so it doesn't really match up what we expect X, Y, and Z to be. So again, playing around with these will just yield some pretty radically different results for fairly small changes often.
Yeah, crazy. I think the offsets and fold angles are probably the harder, the more difficult concepts to understand for people, I'm sure. But even if you don't fully understand it, like Liam said, just have a play with it. You'll start to get a sense of the things you like and kind of what the extremes of those params do. Um, but yeah, it's I wouldn't be too intimidated by these ones. It just I treat it more like a kind of playground. Also, I don't know if you
Yeah,
noticed, Liam,
100%.
but "kiff" in South Africa means it's like a 90s slang word for something that's really cool.
Oh,
That's kiff.
really?
That's kiff, man. Yeah. Every South
There you
African
go.
listening to
That's
this will be
good.
like, nice, nice.
Nice,
Anyway,
nice.
or kiff, kiff.
Yeah, one of my best mates in Australia is South African, so I'll have
Oh, you
to
should definitely use that. Definitely, it's
tell
kind
him
of,
for sure.
it's more the Durban area. But if you say that's kiff, kiff, man, he'll be like, nah, I get you, I get you.
Nice, yeah. Sweet.
Also, to make
So then
sure,
the
go ahead.
sorry, go on.
Oh, no, I was going to say, and also not to
No, no,
forget, you can move around in these spaces, which is really cool. If you click on it with your mouse, keep your finger clicked on it on your mouse, you can scroll and move around and explore, which is super fun.
yeah, thanks. Yeah, and it's a good point. I often forget to talk about that, but yeah, sort of for anyone who's kind of around my age, I sort of wanted this to be the controls of this to be like the video game Descent from the 90s, which is sort of this space exploration game and shooter.
Totally.
Uh, And yeah, so you can move around by using the mouse, and you can like rotate the camera around using Q and E, and you can sort of accelerate and decelerate using R and F. So you can sort of move backwards and stuff like that. So yeah, it's fun to like just go around and explore this space because at its sort of basic level, you've got this sort of forward motion and this really amazing symmetry most of the time. But then as soon as you sort of move the camera around, you really start to see how big these spaces are
Mm.
in reality, right?
People
Um,
might it just to also people might see a jaggy image in the recording, but that's simply the screen recording. Um, I highly encourage you to check out the token and play around as well, because perhaps what you're seeing in the screen recording is a frame rate just jumping, but that's obviously not what Liam's seeing on his side.
Yeah, for sure. That having been said, I mean it is a reasonably computationally expensive token. So I apologize for making your fans turn on your computers, but I hope it's worthwhile.
Well, as time
Uh,
progresses and as our devices get better, whatever,
exactly.
everything will be fine.
E-
And also, one other quick thing I wanted to mention was when you first load it, it starts off small and then increases in size. And that's just basically increasing the quality and the resolution. And that's why that does that. So it kind of starts small and then it adapts to your device and your resolution and I suppose power and resources of your device.
Yeah, exactly. It's trying to find the sort of Goldilocks point on the trade-off between speed and resolution.
Whoa, this one's insane.
Yeah, this one's pretty sweet.
That'd be fun to fly around in.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get back to the
Anyway,
params.
for sure. And then the only other part of the fractal parameters that's worth mentioning are these modulo A and B. Now, again, these are pretty mysterious seeming, um, but what they sort of determine is the way that the space um, modulates between the two different the two different passes of the fractal, right? So um, the sort of normal way that it'll do that is just by this normal one. And what it's doing in that case is just taking whichever piece of the space is closest, but we've also got two other options. Smooth max is you'll see these sort of smooth transitions between things. It's perhaps more evident on some than others. And then you've also got enclosure, which sort of takes things and doubles them back on itself. So normally, if you've got a pretty sparse space and you pick enclosure, you'll get this much more compressed, much more um, closed in sort of space going on. You can see with this one, those curves that are up the top are happening because of this smooth max. So if I were to turn that back to normal, it's much more sharp, much more sort of straightforward. Um, so then the only other thing sort of worth mentioning as far as parameters are concerned is the field of view. So we can change the camera's field of view to sort of a much smaller, much closer kind of one. So it looks very sort of close and enclosed, and then a much larger one, which will give you a much bigger, much broader sort of viewpoint. Um, One of the things that the big field of view will do, like if I ramp this all the way up the top, it's going to make you feel a little bit sick when you're navigating around because it feels very, very vertiginous at this point, almost like a fisheye. So then beyond that, I think, if you're getting in here and you're sort of intimidated, I think one of the best ways to kind of get around here is just hit the randomize button until you find something that you think looks kind of cool, and just use that as your basis. Like, I think this one looks kind of cool, so I want to change the colors a bit. So let's turn that off. And I just want something very, very kind of straightforward and monotone. So let's move all of these back here to sort of this gray area. And then all of a sudden you've got this sort of black and white scene.
Awesome.
Yeah. And what else can I talk about? Oh, yeah. So the only other thing that I'm sort of doing with beats here is if you get into this and you hit random a few times and you're like, holy crap, I can't take the difficulty here. Reach out on Discord. We're offering a service called Artist Choice as well, which will let you sort of reach out to me. And what I'll do is I'll provide you with sort of a series of parameters that I personally like. And that way, what you can do is you can sort of load that up. And if you agree with me and you like them, you can just sort of go straight down here and click the mint button. So the way to accomplish that is if you go to the token itself, get back there, and once you once you mint a ticket, just go to that. All I need from you is your ticket ID. So I'll just show you how to find that. And once I have that, what I'll do is I'll construct a link for you that'll let you open it up with exactly the parameters that I've picked.
I'll create a channel in the Discord just for this so that it's specific to that. So that, yeah, so it's just a little bit cleaner. I'll just call it
For sure.
artist choice
Sounds good.
or artist choice. Yeah, anyway, portal's
Yeah.
artist choice
Yeah.
or something. Got a couple minutes before this meeting's going to end. Um,
Okay.
but we should be
Yeah,
good.
let's do this. So yeah, if you go into your ticket itself, mint tickets, then click mint iteration. All you need to do is just send me the URL of this. So just copy and paste this whole URL, drop it into the artist choice, and just at me. And what I'll do is, as soon as I can, I'll get back to you with a param set that hopefully you like.
Great. And just quickly talking about the FX tickets, just in case people ask about that. Basically, you get a ticket. First of all, you get a ticket, which enables you to, change the params to your liking. And then once you're happy with that, that's when you mint it. You have once you get your ticket, once you mint your ticket, you have 5 days to get it working. And then if you don't complete it within those 5 days, you'll get charged like a tax. I'm not sure what the tax of that is, to be honest, but it basically just promotes and pushes people to create their tokens and not just let them sit there. Otherwise that would be a disaster for every artist.
Yeah,
Did I get
exactly.
that more or less right?
Yeah, so the grace period is 5 days. So when you purchase the ticket, you'll have 5 days to mint it if you want to. If you want to hold on to it after that, you'll have to go into it and update the price. So you want to go in here and say, I want to reserve it for like 10 TES or something like that for, say, another 10 days there. So by doing that, you'll be paying 1.54, sorry, 0.154 TES. So that'll just reserve it for you for that kind of extra 10 days, or at least allow you to hold on to it for a little bit longer.
Gotcha. Yeah, so the
Yeah,
fees are pretty minimal.
it's pretty minimal for sure.
Great.
Yeah.
Um,
The only thing to be aware of is that after that 5 days runs out, people can just pick it up on the market for whatever price is it's set in here.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, cool. Well, that was great. So, just in terms of, thanks so much, Liam. That's honestly, it's super helpful. I think people watching this are going to get a much better insight into it. It's going to be, I feel like that just helps everyone, not just for this, to be honest, but just params in general. So hopefully people got a lot out of this. We're minting, these are minted, so you can actually go to the here now profile on FX Hash and see it, and you can even start playing around with it. But tomorrow, so Friday, I'll be adding all those who burnt their coins up until tomorrow. I'll add them to the reserve list, and then anyone who burns their coins after tomorrow, I'll add them to the next reserve list, which I'll update next Friday, and then the last one will be the following Friday on the 21st. So if you, don't worry if you're not on the reserve list for the first tokens, but you will be on the reserve list, if you burn them in the next 2 weeks. Cool. Thanks so much, Liam. That was awesome.
yeah, no, thank you. It's great.
Great.
Looking forward to seeing the mints.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Please share them with us too. Like we want to see them in the feed. Um, Liam's worked so hard on this, and you've done such an amazing job, man. That I really hope we get to see people's creations because this is a pretty special collaboration, I think, between user and
100%.
you.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah, definitely. And you, I mean, you provided some great editorial and curatorial input. So yeah,
Well,
for sure.
that's nice of you to say, but you did everything. Let's face it.
Thanks, man.
But yeah, but thanks again, Liam. And yeah, I'll talk to everyone soon. And thanks again for joining.
Great.
All right,
Yeah,
cheers, mate.
thanks. All
Two
right,
Aussies
bye.
signing off.